What's going on, guys? So, today I want to talk to you about a topic that I'm actually pretty passionate about, and I've had a lot of conversations with different guys about this. So, I want to talk to you about why setting boundaries and building masculine frame in your life and with other people, especially women that you're dating, is really important, right? So you might already know what I'm talking about, and that's amazing. And if you don't, well, there's lots of examples of masculine frame slipping for guys in relationships. I think that's one of the easiest examples, right? So let's talk about that for a moment. So sometimes guys don't set boundaries for themselves and with the woman that they're dating early on, right? And so they sort of set themselves up in a shaky position to begin with, right? So it's like they're building a house on unstable ground, right? And sometimes it's pretty interesting because it's a bit weird because you would think like later in the relationship you be around the girl more, you trust each other more, and you can say like, "Oh no, now I have this boundary." Although, funny enough, it seems like people react in different ways to that. So I'll give you an example, right? Like, um, sometimes, let's say that you want to protect your relationship, right? So you yourself as the man, like you don't drink and you don't go out to bars or clubs or go out at night to different places with all your single guy friends, like where there's a bunch of girls, right? So you want to protect your relationship and you want the same for your partner. Remember, you're a mirror. Your partner's a mirror of you and your behavior. So you're literally at the same level as them. And I know that, just to talk about that for just a second, a lot of people think like, oh, like I keep getting low quality partners, like I don't know why. It's you're the common denominator, right? They're not all toxic, right? It's best to take accountability for it. Like why do you keep attracting that kind of person? And you've got a similar energy or similar wavelength to them, right? So no matter if you can't see it, there's something about you that's attracting them, and vice versa. Even if might not seem like obvious, like maybe you have low self worth, right? There's lots of different reasons for it. But getting back to the example here, let's say those are your values, and you want to protect your potential future relationship, and you don't say some of those things a little bit earlier when you're dating this hypothetical girl, right? So later on down the line, if she's saying that she wants to go out with her friends on like a girls trip, um, you know, trip to Vegas, girls' night out, this and that, and you don't want her going clubbing and partying, there's a difference between like controlling and insecure and then actually just having boundaries for yourself. And this is exactly what I mean, right? Because the boundary is that you let her know that she's free and able to do whatever she wants. And you're completely okay with that, although you yourself are not interested in going out and partying, clubbing, and putting yourself around other women, and you want to date someone who does the same, right? And basically, you can also top that off by saying, okay, I'm not really interested in dating someone who does that. Again, like, I'm not going to control you. Like, you're more than welcome to do that. If that's something you want, like, you're free to go do that. I'm just not sure if this relationship might work out long term in that situation. and you can just leave it at that, right? You don't need to overly explain yourself. That should make enough sense. And someone might react emotionally to that, like, oh, like you're controlling, blah blah blah. But you've simply stated your boundary about what you're gonna do in that circumstance. They are still free to do whatever they want. So let's talk about the boundaries and the masculine frame thing here, right? So let's say this doesn't happen early on and it happens later. There's a higher chance or a higher percentage chance that the girl will get upset at you for stating the boundary later, and it'll come up in some way like, oh, like you didn't tell me that before. How come it's not okay now? Right? Like, how come you didn't tell me that earlier? So like now you're like changing your mind here. Like what's going on? And like I mean, there's a chance that you can talk through it and make it work, right? Like, don't get me wrong, you can fix that frame, but you have to let them know what your boundaries are, and hopefully you both are growing as people. And if you're growing as a person, maybe your boundaries might change over time, right? So that's completely okay. I'm just letting you know that there's a chance that you're going to run into some friction if you state the boundary later in the relationship, right? Like, it'll be like a surprise to them. Like, whoa, like, well, this was okay before. Like, you didn't let me know that that's not something that would work for you before. Now we've been dating for 2 years, right? Or that's just an example. And here's an even simpler example, especially for dating, right? Or even marriage, like things like that. You see it all the time. There's examples of people who essentially they took their foot off of the gas pedal. Like, they were very like ambitious, working on their business and their career or their fitness, right? So you attracted like a higher quality partner because of these things, right? I mean, those are some of the reasons that you attracted them. And here's the part you see a lot, right? Is then they get the girlfriend or the wife and they let their foot off the gas. And so they're no longer being the person that they were before that attracted their partner. And what your partner wants to see is that you're maintaining or growing. They don't want to see this. They don't want to see you decline. And I know that things can be challenging, things that happen. I 100% empathize with that. I just want to let you know, because I've talked to tons of guys that were dating a girl or they ended up in a divorce from their wife, and that was one gigantic reason why, is because they essentially let their frame slip. And the interesting part about that one, right, is that wasn't necessarily like let's talk about the dad bod, right? Like, oh, it's okay, babe, like I like you fluffy and soft, like I like the little bit of belly. Oh, it's okay, like sit inside and eat some ice cream with me, eat like a pint of ice cream and let's watch some Netflix. Like, it's okay, you don't have to go to the gym today, you're working so hard, I never get to see you, you're going to the gym again. And it's like, if you soften up to that, then they see that there's a crack in your frame, right? So it's not that they're evil or they were trying to intentionally sabotage you, right? It's just in women's nature to see if you're really the guy that you say you are, right? So if you do something like that, they'll see that there's holes in your boat, essentially. Now, I just want to make a side note to that. You 100% want to keep dating the person that you're with, right? And keep putting in effort. So let's say you have hard boundaries around when you're working on your business and working on your fitness, and there's boundaries around that. That can't necessarily be broken, right? Maybe they can be a little flexible sometimes, but they can't really be broken. you also want to essentially create some space, because the space will actually, what's the saying, like, um, distance makes the heart grow fonder, right? Like if you're around your girlfriend or your wife all day, every day, like they're not gonna miss you. Straight up, right? Like there's no other way to put that. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but creating a little bit of distance, like even if it's just like you're going to work, you're going to the gym, you're in a different place than them for a little while during the day, that's good. Like they want to know that you're ambitious and driven and working on building something, trying to grow. Like they're very attracted to that. And likely that's why they were attracted to you in the first place. So all that said, you can make time. Because when you do that, then you're both going to want to see each other more, be excited for your date night. Like let's say you're in a long-term relationship or marriage. Like they're going to be excited for that like one date night a week or two, you know, whatever you do, right? But they're going to be excited for that because they've missed you and you've been both like working, doing your own thing all week. And it's different than you two being at home together or you two being at home with the kids, right? It's different when you're actually both able to go out and date and essentially keep that spark alive. And I've talked to some guys that, for example, like they just like work remotely, right? Like maybe them and their wife both have like remote jobs, and so they have no space from each other. Like they're always like right next to each other. And I've seen it. I mean, I'm sure you can make this work, right? But I have seen it where guys like the attraction slips on both sides because they're always together, right? Of course, you might really like or love your partner, so you want to be with them a lot. Just remember that that's part of when we're talking about the boundaries there. It's even a boundary for yourself, right? Like you can have boundaries around this is when we're going to do date night, and then also boundaries like she's not trying to poke holes in your ship, but she'll see that you might not be the guy that you say you are if you slip on some of that stuff. Like the easy example is the dad bod one. Like if she could pick you as exact same guy, all the same characteristics and traits, there's you as the dad bod version or you as the fit version. There's an obvious choice, right? There's no kidding anybody which one she'd rather pick. So she always wants you to want to grow and be your best self. And the underlying part of all this is you're actually breaking a promise and a boundary to yourself, and you won't trust yourself as much if you start skipping the gym or not working on your business as much or whatever you're doing. Like you're not working as hard and you're letting your boundaries slip around that. Like you're not who you were before and you're not pushing and growing, striving for more. So this is like, some of these things are some of the major things I've seen, especially with guys in dating, right? And why their relationship slips. Like the woman sort of, like neither side wants this to happen, but because of these things, the woman starts to lose respect for the guy because of that. And I mean, that's like probably the example that hits closest to home for most guys, is when it comes to like attracting a partner or that really important woman in their life, right? Like the relationship that they're in, or their wife, or they'll be like, oh, that's what happened to me in my previous relationship. And you want to know well enough so you can avoid it next time. Like you know what to do. And then there's, of course, little simple examples on top of that. I mean, like if you let certain things slide with people that crosses your boundaries, then they're going to think it's okay, right? And that goes with the dating. That also goes with friends. That also goes with, let's say, you have a supervisor at work, a coworker, whatever, right? Like if you tell them that you're always okay, working 14-hour days, then they're not gonna think otherwise, right? Or if you always say yes to things when you want to say no sometimes, like you gotta respect yourself enough to have some boundaries overall, and you build this solid frame. And basically, in a nutshell, because I don't really need to talk about this more at this point, right? Like in a nutshell, people are going to respect you and your boundaries because you've let them know, and you've also let them know what you might do in particular situations, like what you're okay with, what you're not okay with, what you say yes to, what you don't say yes to, who you are. Like you let them know who you are through your actions there. And you don't want to be a doormat. Basically, you want to be strong in your frame. And that goes back to what we're talking about. Boundaries, frame. And there's really nothing else I really need to say about this. I really, really hope this helps you, because there's boundaries with other people and there's boundaries with yourself. Like even if it's not relationship related, like friends, family, dating, like your boundary could be, I go to the gym every day. I work on my business for 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is every day. And if you break that boundary to yourself, it's because most people think about boundaries between you and someone else, but there's your own boundaries too. And if you break that, you're going to trust yourself less, and the self-esteem is going to go down, and you're not going to feel as confident, and it's a snowball effect. So this is what I want you to practice and think about more consciously, be more self-aware of, so that this will help you going forward in the future if you're not already doing this. And if you are, I hope this helped you in some way as a reminder. And yeah, I mean, all I can say is I really hope that you took something from this video, and you got this, bro.